Why hasn't Trump been indicted yet? The government swears this isn't just another political witch hunt, but that this time, Trump was committing a serious crime. The crime of hoarding government secrets to possibly sell off to a foreign adversary is the claim they essentially allude to. Well, if that's true, then why is it taking so long to charge him with a crime? Well, someone who's been following very closely and breaking the news on this investigation is Jack Posobiec, host of Human Events Daily. Jack, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kim, thanks so much for having me on.
So, why hasn't he been charged yet? What is going on?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we were looking at a few documents on this, and a week ago on Human Events Daily, we had the story that one of the biggest kind of, rumors or rumint that was flying around in Trump world was that the raid was over potential documents that President Trump had retained relating to the Russiagate investigation. And these were the underlying original documents, the electronic communications, as to why the CIA and FBI initially opened that investigation against him. Obviously, as president, he does have the ability to disclassify or declassify whatever he wants. He has a plenary power to do that, the same way that he can pardon anyone that he wants at the federal level. He's the president. That's any president, whether it's an Obama or Biden or Clinton or whoever. They have Bush, they have the ability to do these things. And so he declassifies those, keeps a copy for his own records because they're about himself, and certainly something that he was at a political firestorm involved with for pretty much the majority of his entire term in office. And so that was something that we reported a week ago. Then Newsweek comes out last night and says, well, it looks like it was the Spygate documents that we were actually after. And so, oh, well, there you go. And so what's interesting, though, is just before the show this morning, I was going back and the guys at Judicial Watch have pulled up. They said, wait a minute. They said, you know what? We actually were in a case involving presidential records under the Presidential Records Act with President Clinton about a decade ago. And now, Kim, I don't know if you've seen, the narrative has actually kind of shifted a little bit because they're now even saying, oh, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter if the records are classified. If he had government records, period, that's a crime. Okay, so they're trying to shift this around. Oh, it's not in the criminal provision. It's not there. But here's the issue. In that case, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who is no right-wing conservative. I mean, she's as far left as they go. She was ruling in a case where Judicial Watch was trying to get these audio tapes of interviews, apparently, that President Clinton had done with a historian, and interviews they had done while he was in office. President Clinton hasn't released those tapes. He kept them in a sock drawer. He still has them. They're trying. And so Judicial Watch hears about this and they say, hey, we want to go get those tapes. And they tried to sue under the auspices of the Presidential Records Act. Here's the problem. The judge ruled in that case 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, that there is no provision in the Presidential Records Act to forcibly seize records that a president, and this is key, has deemed to be personal records, and that every president has broad ability to do so. It then stated that even if the National Records Administration and the Attorney General attempted to challenge the president on this, that it would still be, and this is key, a civil matter and not a criminal matter. So right there, you do have an issue between whether this is a civil administrative issue or is it something that actually rises to the level of a criminal issue? Because, again, as we've seen before, we know that presidents have broad authority in this. And just to be serious for a second, I mean, we have libraries all across the country of presidential records, and you can go in almost every state. It's actually something that's been a hobby of mine, just on the side, trying to see how many presidential libraries I can go to. I don't even care, Republican, Democrat, I just like going to them. And of course, many of them are operated under private foundations. The Barack Obama Foundation is running his library. It hasn't opened yet in Chicago, but we know there's tons of records up there. And so the question becomes, if they go back to this ruling, they can simply, and this may come up later this afternoon with the judge down in Palm Beach, that, hey, wait a minute, this says right here, and this is federal precedent, that there is no criminal liability, that it would have to be a civil matter. So to answer your question, it may be that they can't indict him.
which then just goes back to the suspicion that many of us have had, which is that this was political. This had nothing really to do truly with a crime. I mean, look, the big question that I've had through this is, if you're going to take the unprecedented step of raiding a former president's home, you better have a really good reason, right? I mean, you have to know what you're looking for. You're looking for a smoking gun, and you think it is in there. We've got to go get it. And when we retrieve it, there is a crime that is attached to this smoking gun being found. I mean, this is what would happen in, let's say, a murder investigation. If they found the smoking gun, they would immediately then charge that person with murder, right? So,
well, and Kim, to your point, the phrase "smoking gun." The reason you want to find the gun while it's smoking is because you don't want to give the person time to get rid of the evidence.
Right.
That's the reason for a raid. That's the reason for, if you look at police procedures across the country, these no-knock warrants and things that have been kind of controversial. That's the whole impetus for this. That's the reason they're saying, is because, look, we need to get in there and we need to conduct this because that person might destroy the evidence and then we're not going to be able to make the case, and we have to do this. And in this case, it was national security and all the rest of it, I'm sure they're going to claim. And yet, the more we hear about this warrant and then the affidavit that have come after it, and I was the one who initially reported all of the details of the warrant. I posted the warrant for the first place anywhere last week. We're hoping to get the affidavit today. That essentially it seems to be shifting to the point of where, well, wait a minute, if this wasn't some kind of national security thing. And so I actually talked to us. If you read the warrant, you'll see Trump's attorney, Christina Bobb, is the one who signed off on the warrant. So Christina's a friend of mine. We worked together in the past. And I spoke to her earlier this week and I said, hey, can I talk about this? She said, yeah, just don't make me look bad. I said, okay, fine. I wouldn't anyway. But she said the weirdest thing for her was that in talking to the FBI, when they were there at Mar-a-Lago during the raid, she said, they said, look, we just want to keep this quiet. We just want to, conduct this and get out of your hair, even though they were there for something like 9.5 hours. And the strangest part to her is that it seemed as though the FBI DOJ actually wanted to keep the whole thing quiet and thought that it wouldn't get out. And to me, just seems completely insane.
So they just went in, they just really wanted to retrieve some boxes of records. I mean, this is what it's sounding like. And even reading that Newsweek piece, they spoke to some inside government officials that are knowledgeable about the case. And those government officials were saying, well, it wasn't really about the nuclear, the nuclear documents. I mean, there was, because that was, of course, the big news and everyone was latching on to that. And I think when they leaked that information to the Washington Post, they absolutely knew that Americans would look at that and say, oh my gosh, well, so that's why they raided the former president, was because he had secrets that he was potentially going to be selling off to enemies of the country. And, he's a traitor. And then now we see reports where they say, well, okay, it wasn't necessarily about the content of the documents. It was that the documents were there. To your point, that they're changing the narrative. It was, well, we just need to go and retrieve these documents. It doesn't really even matter if they're classified or not classified. It doesn't matter if they're about nuclear weapons. He's going to be selling information like as if he's got like as if the White House keeps the codes to the nukes or something, and Trump was able to walk out with that. So they're shifting it, and now it's just about, well, he wasn't supposed to have those records. So it's very similar to all of the other investigations regarding Trump, where it was, we're looking, we know he's a Manchurian candidate for the Russians, right? We know he's a deep state agent. And then when they investigate, they say, well, okay, we'll just get him on, we couldn't find anything really, but now we're just going to get him on obstruction of justice. Not to say that you should be breaking the law at all, right, in any form, but they're not able to get him for any of the real crimes that they're claiming they could get him for. And they haven't been able to for years.
Well, and this is what I said this recently, and I've been making the pitch on it, that what you're seeing here is that it's almost like a reality TV true crime show for so many people. And this is the Liz Cheney audience, the Adam Kinzinger, the January 6th committee. It's just season 7 of Get Trump. And Get Trump is their favorite TV series, right?
Just when I think it's over, just when I think they've jumped the shark, they're definitely getting canceled. They keep
so down on the cliffhanger, so she can't go back to the committee, but then she's got to go something else. And these people follow it as if, Get Trump, he's not the white whale, he's the orange whale, right? And they want, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Cy Vance, it doesn't matter if it's the Manhattan DA or Letitia James in New York or Trump University. Sam Harris was had this crazy, by the way, talking point earlier today where he's giving some interview saying that, well, who cares if we censored the laptop story that it was true? We just had to stop Trump, and I don't care. We should have done anything to stop him. So I was like, oh, okay, great. So just torch your entire career, Sam. But what's amazing to me is that they will do anything. They will do it, and there's this thin slice of the population, and I think it's a lot of like suburban moms. They're heavily vaxxed, and they're just watching this thing over and over because it's get Trump. It's just get Trump, get Trump, get Trump in any way possible. And so to them, or to anybody who follows that narrative, of course, the raid on Mar-a-Lago becomes, that's sort of the kickoff. That's the big cliffhanger ending of season 6. Now we're going into season 7.
Yeah, do you think there's going to be a season 8? Every time, I'm telling you, I think this has got to be, they just have to stop. He's not even in the White House anymore, but of course they're afraid of him coming back. And they thought that, well, if we could get him for this or show that he's a traitor to the country or even just allude to it, which is what they've really done, that maybe they could stop him. That is backfired. There are now independents who do not like Trump. They would have never voted for Trump previously, and they are now saying, wow, if the establishment, the government hates him this much, then I'm voting for him in 2024 if he's president. So they've only increased his odds of actually defeating Biden in 2024 if he runs for office. Do you think he is going to run for office?
I think he knows. I think he knows that he can't at this point. I think that Biden understands that it's gone on too long. I mean, the guy, he can't even get over one bout with COVID, right? He goes in, he goes out, he goes in, he goes out. We're not even really sure who's running the country. I do think it's very interesting timing that the minute that Biden walks off the stage, that's when the raid happens.
Yeah.
So he goes off for COVID, and then boom, the president gets raided, or former president gets raided like the next Monday.
But I'm saying, do you think Trump is going to run for office?
Like that.
Do you think he's going to run for office, Trump?
Oh, 100%.
You think he's going to? Oh, really?
Oh, 100%. I think he runs. I think he wins the nomination. And right now, because of the actions of this federal government and the bureaucracy that has become this sort of fourth branch that was never supposed to be of the government, that's the reason, by the way, that you can't get any laws through Congress, that you change presidents and nothing seems to happen. It's that you have this fourth middle branch that's sort of sitting there and gumming up the works. They're the ones really in control of this. If you go watch the sitcom Yes Minister, it kind of explains how this works in the UK, that it's the civil servants that really have the power.
Yeah.
And if they're using these heavy-handed tactics against Trump, which they are, and which they've done, then suddenly all of Trump's claims about a deep state bureaucracy that's out to get him suddenly become incredibly valid.
Well, that's out to get a lot of
in the middle. You're
right.
going to say, yeah, it does look like that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. And I think the big fear that many of us have is it's not just about Trump. It's about this expanded power that could be used against anybody. And I think those of us who hail from the other side of the aisle historically.
Look at Assange.
Exactly. Look at Assange. Look at, Snowden. Look at, I mean, they could absolutely use these tactics. And I have no doubt that if Bernie Sanders would have won, that there would have been a deep state potentially even against him.
It would have been Bernie Sanders is a Russian Manchurian candidate. It would have been the exact same narrative, but about Bernie. Look, I've said before that, I think one of President Trump's one of my biggest criticisms that he should have pardoned Assange, Snowden, Ross Ulbricht. And the reason that it's funny enough, because the reason he didn't is because people were telling him that, oh, well, you don't want to cause any waves with the Department of Justice on your way out. Yeah, look how that worked.
Yeah, it didn't work out. And I think maybe and that's, I think, what people are wondering is this, if he were to get a second time around, after everything they've done to him, if he really would this time around actually drain the swamp, if he wouldn't put so much trust. I think, it was pretty clear he was shocked that he won. And then he gets in there and he's like, well, maybe he really does want to make some change, but things are new. He's kind of getting the lay of the land. He puts people around him that maybe are swampy. And he certainly did that over and over and over again. Maybe putting too much trust in others, maybe not fully understanding the level of, somebody could lie to you and tell you to your face they're on your side and really they're not. And you find out the minute you're no longer in office who really was your friend and who wasn't. Do you think the second time around he would be different?
Well, this is why, and so I'm thinking along these lines as well, because, of course, it's interesting because usually when someone's running for election, they're running for 2 terms. But in this case, he's running for election. He's not the incumbent, but he could only serve 1 term because he
Right.
still already served 1 term. And so that's why I said you need a Paul in there with him. You need a Rand Paul or even a Ron Paul to just go in there, someone who's going to call BS on everything that's coming up to you, someone who's going to look at these institutions and say, get him out of here, get rid of Fauci, get rid of the Fed, don't just audit it, abolish it. I want that kind of energy in a second Trump administration.
Oh,
And
man.
if he
A
runs on
Rand
that
Paul
kind of
vice.
platform, I think that would reach across the aisle for a lot of people.
Yeah. Do you think he would put Rand Paul maybe as his vice presidential pick?
I think it's in the mix. I think his name's. I know that there were a lot of people were saying, "Hey, you need to pick a woman because that'll even soften out the image a little bit. That'll give you some more appeal for the fairer gender." And people are talking about Christy Nome, Carrie Lake, some of the other governors. But I don't know. I just think if you get one of those Pauls in there, someone from that family who just really comes at politics from a complete sideways angle and isn't afraid to call out people on their own side or afraid to take stands against things like vaccine mandates or drone strikes or
Yeah.
wars without any legal justification, then I think that's really the kind of administration America needs right now.
Absolutely. I hadn't even thought about Rand Paul being connected to the administration if Trump were to run, being
Well, they have a
connected to
great
him. But
relationship.
yeah, but that would be, I think, very much that is the showcasing of we are here to drain the swamp. I think if Rand Paul was there, because he does call out everybody all the time, and he
Oh, yeah.
certainly is comes at he's
And by the way, wouldn't be afraid to, butt heads with the president, butt heads with Trump from time to time.
yeah, Rand
Rand
butts heads with
Paul
everybody. He
was
doesn't
one of the
care.
biggest champions of pardoning, Assange and
Yeah.
Snowden and Ulbricht and everybody else. So I mean, he's really someone who's look, you put that guy in a room, he's going to speak his mind and he's going to hold to his ideals. And I don't always agree with all the libertarian stuff, and that's fine. But again, I like that kind of energy, and I think we need that kind of
Yeah.
energy.
All right, Jack. Well, thanks for joining us. Jack Posobiec, host of Human Events Daily. You can check him out. Go to humanevents.com.
Thanks so much, Kim.